Thursday, the 26th of September. We're a day early. We usually do these on Fridays, but a confluence of events means a day early would be a good idea. And there are two things going on in the news world which are producing unusual anxiety, and I'd like to try to calm those of outsiders who are not complete news freaks like me. The first of these is this business of the banking system and a shortage of repo, R-E-P-O. This is not repo as in having your car repossessed or perhaps a sofa. At the core of the financial system is a type of secured loan called a repurchase agreement. And in the dark channels of finance, the best security that a lender can have in collateral is actually to hold it, to own it. And that's the derivation of repurchase agreement. And a week ago, the New York Federal Reserve Bank is supposed to keep close tabs on financial markets, in particular to make sure that the banking system has sufficient reserves to operate. There have been a lot of changes at the Fed and in the economy in the last 10 years. All normal people are confused by the concepts of bank reserves, bank capital, bank liquidity, and get them all jumbled up. And meanwhile, there's a large crew of exceptionally well-dressed people who like to terrify people when something unusual happens in the financial system, in hopes that terrified people will give all of their money to the well-dressed individual to save them from what that individual has described as a disaster about to happen. Relax. You don't need to know what repo is. You don't need to know what the Fed is doing about it. There will be recurrent stories for weeks while the Fed restabilizes a very technical event that is actually the result of the tightening of the banking system since 2008. The steps that the Fed has taken to make the banking system more secure are extraordinary. There's been nothing like it since the Great Depression. Everyone should sleep well at night about the status of the banking system. So as you see well-dressed people with very expensive neckties describing disaster at hand, no, it's all fine, just fine. The second thing that is underway is the business of potentially impeaching a president. I'm old enough to have lived through two of these. The third one was 170 years ago, and I'm not quite that old. But we have impeached two presidents. A third, we were conducting impeachment hearings when evidence was so strong that Mr. Nixon decided to resign instead of being impeached. The other two whom we did impeach probably didn't deserve it. But the question's going to rise up soon, and there will be other very well-dressed people telling you that there's something awful is going to happen as a result of impeachment or the hearings or the preamble to the process. Don't believe any of that. The financial markets during this week, and especially during today, when the whistleblower stuff appeared and hearings in Congress, financial markets did nothing. I can't figure out what financial consequence would flow from the president staying in office or leaving office, being impeached and then not found guilty in the Senate or found guilty in the Senate. None of that is really going to matter. The vice president would take over. The vice president's politics are aligned. The financial politics are aligned. Perhaps most important, during election years in the United States, nothing happens. The parties, everybody involved, are posturing for the election. And so we don't even really try to get anything done. And calm, be cool. These two events that are going to overtake news for a while are not the important things. The important things are the status of the U.S. economy, and especially the status of the housing market, and it's all just fine. In fact, it is so fine that when the Fed meets again in October, There may not be another rate cut. Rates are already way down. Rates around 4%, depending on loan type and a whole bunch of other things, are almost exactly a percentage point lower than they were a year ago, and they're likely to stay so. And none of the alarm that you're going to see in your favorite media is likely to have any impact on anything. The status of the U.S. economy and economies overseas are the important part. Have a good weekend.